By 2100, some countries you know today might disappear, swallowed by the oceans, lost to climate change, or erased from the map entirely. Could your country be next? From space, Earth appears calm and timeless. A fragile blue world, wrapped in a thin, glowing atmosphere, floating silently in the darkness of space. But beneath this peaceful view, something powerful is beginning to change. Oceans cover more than 70% of our planet's surface. For millions of years, they have shaped coastlines, ecosystems, and human civilizations. Yet today, those same oceans are slowly expanding. Across the globe, scientists are watching the same pattern unfold. Sea levels are rising, not by meters overnight, but by centimeters each decade. And those small increases are already beginning to reshape the map of the world. For cities built along the coast, the ocean has always been both a lifeline and a threat. But as sea levels rise, that balance is beginning to shift. Water that once stayed beyond the shoreline is now slowly pushing inland. Far from the cities and coastlines, the source of this change can be found in the frozen regions of the planet. Massive glaciers, some thousands of years old, are beginning to break apart and melt into the sea. Around the world, headlines are becoming more urgent. Scientists warn that sea levels are rising faster than expected. For some nations, the consequences may be far more than environmental. In the middle of the Indian Ocean lies one of the most vulnerable countries on Earth, the Maldives. At first glance, the Maldives looks like paradise. Hundreds of tropical islands surrounded by bright turquoise water and coral reefs. But beneath this beauty lies a dangerous reality. Much of the land here rises only slightly above the ocean. According to many projections, if global sea levels continue rising at their current pace, the Maldives could begin disappearing before the end of this century. On average, these islands sit barely 1 meter above sea level. In many places, the difference between dry land and open ocean is only a few steps. Even small increases in water levels can flood streets, homes, and infrastructure, sometimes during nothing more than a high tide. But the Maldives is not alone. Across the Pacific Ocean, another small nation faces a similar future, Tuvalu. Tuvalu is made up of a handful of narrow coral islands, surrounded by the vast Pacific. Here, the ocean is never far away. In some places, the entire width of the island can be crossed in just a few minutes. As sea levels rise, leaders in Tuvalu are already considering a possibility, once thought unimaginable: relocating an entire country. While island nations face the most immediate danger, low-lying coastal regions elsewhere are also at risk. One of the most vulnerable places on Earth is the vast river delta of Bangladesh. Here, millions of people live on land formed by centuries of sediment carried by enormous rivers. But this land is extremely low and highly exposed to flooding. As sea levels rise and storms grow stronger, scientists warn that millions of people in this region could be forced to move inland. Bangladesh sits at the meeting point of some of the largest rivers on Earth. Every year, these rivers bring life-giving water and fertile soil to the delta. But they also bring devastating floods. As the ocean slowly rises and powerful cyclones sweep across the Bay of Bengal, the water has fewer places to go. The result is flooding that spreads farther inland than ever before. Storm surges can push massive walls of water across coastal villages, turning farmland and homes into temporary seas within hours. For the millions of people living in these low-lying areas, the threat is constant. Each year, the ocean inches closer. And this is only one region among many. Around the world, scientists are identifying coastal areas where rising seas could displace entire communities. Across the Pacific Ocean, another country is facing an uncertain future: the island nation of Kiribati. Kiribati is made up of small coral islands scattered across a vast stretch of ocean. Many of these islands rise only a few meters above the water. In some places, waves already wash across the land during high tides, flooding roads and homes. As erosion slowly eats away at the coastline, parts of the islands are disappearing, piece by piece. For the people who live here, climate change is not a distant prediction. It is already happening. Across the Pacific, other island nations face the same challenge. Small communities that have existed for generations may soon be forced to relocate. Scientists estimate that if sea levels continue rising throughout the century, some islands could become uninhabitable long before they disappear completely. And the problem is not limited to small islands. Rising seas are driven by powerful global forces. One of the most important is the melting of ice at the poles. In the Arctic, vast ice sheets that once remained frozen year-round are beginning to melt at accelerating rates. Greenland alone contains enough ice to raise global sea levels by several meters if it were to melt completely. In Antarctica, enormous ice shelves are cracking and breaking apart, releasing huge volumes of ice into the ocean. As this ice melts, the additional water slowly spreads across the world's oceans. But melting ice is only part of the story. As the planet warms, the oceans themselves expand. Warmer water takes up slightly more space, causing sea levels to rise even further. Over the past century, human activity has dramatically increased the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. These gases trap heat, warming the planet and disrupting climate systems that have remained relatively stable for thousands of years. Industrial growth, burning fossil fuels, and widespread deforestation are all contributing to the buildup of heat in Earth's atmosphere. The result is a planet that is gradually warming and oceans that are steadily rising. If current trends continue, the effects could reshape coastlines around the world. Many of the world's largest cities were built near the ocean. From New York to Jakarta, from Miami to Shanghai, hundreds of millions of people live in low-lying coastal regions. Some cities are already experiencing the effects. In Jakarta, parts of the city are sinking while sea levels continue to rise, increasing the risk of catastrophic flooding. In Miami, high tides and storm surges are becoming more severe as the ocean gradually moves inland. Even cities protected by advanced engineering systems face growing challenges. In Venice, massive flood barriers are now required to keep rising waters out of the historic city. In the Netherlands, enormous seawalls and flood defences protect land that sits below sea level. These systems can delay the impact of rising oceans, but they cannot stop the ocean forever. As coastlines change, millions of people may eventually be forced to move. Scientists warn that climate migration could become one of the defining challenges of the 21st century. Communities that once lived by the sea may have to move inland, seeking higher ground and new opportunities. The consequences would reach far beyond the environment. affecting economies, infrastructure, and global stability. Entire cultures and ways of life could disappear as coastal regions slowly transform. In some places, the ocean is already reclaiming land that once supported thriving communities. Abandoned homes stand empty along eroding coastlines, slowly being swallowed by the sea. For the people who remain, the question is no longer whether the ocean will rise, but how quickly it will happen. The future of many nations may depend on how the world responds in the coming decades. The oceans that once allowed civilizations to flourish are now becoming a reminder of how fragile our planet truly is. And as the water continues to rise, humanity faces one of the greatest challenges in its history: protecting the world we have built along the edge of the sea. For thousands of years, civilizations have been drawn to the coast. The ocean provided food, trade routes, and access to the wider world. Great cities grew along these shores, turning coastlines into the centers of global culture and commerce. But the very oceans that helped humanity flourish are now slowly reclaiming the land. Scientists estimate that global sea levels have already risen by more than 20 centimeters over the past century. That might not sound like much, but for low-lying regions, even a few centimeters can mean the difference between safety and disaster. And the pace of change is accelerating. Across the Arctic, temperatures are rising nearly 4 times faster than the global average. Ice that once remained frozen year-round is now melting earlier each summer and refreezing later each winter. Satellite images reveal enormous glaciers slowly retreating, carving rivers of meltwater that flow into the sea. In Greenland, vast ice sheets stretch for thousands of kilometers. These ancient glaciers have stored frozen water for hundreds of thousands of years. But today, massive sections of this ice are breaking away. Towering walls of ice collapse into the ocean, forming enormous icebergs that drift slowly into warmer waters where they eventually melt. Every year, Greenland alone loses hundreds of billions of tons of ice. Far to the south, Antarctica holds even greater reserves of frozen water. Beneath its frozen surface lies enough ice to raise global sea levels by dozens of meters. As the oceans continue to rise, the future of many coastlines remains uncertain. Entire communities, cultures, and even nations could face a reality that once seemed impossible. The question is no longer whether the seas are rising, but how the world will respond to it. Which places will adapt? Which cities will build defences strong enough to hold back the ocean? And which countries might slowly disappear beneath the waves? Some scientists believe the first nations at risk could be low-lying island countries like the Maldives, Tuvalu and Kiribati. But rising seas don't stop at small islands. Coastal cities across the world are also beginning to feel the pressure. So the question is worth asking. Which countries do you think could disappear next if sea levels keep rising? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy exploring global mysteries, science, and the hidden forces shaping our world, make sure to subscribe to Tayron, because the story of our changing planet is only just beginning.